Yeah. Walmart. Right there. Run all the way up down to the water. My son's in the Coast Guard. He's E5 boatsman. Yeah, he signed for 6. Did 2 in Alaska, and then picked Sand Key and got it. Wow. Probably because he did 2 in Alaska.
So he's here now?
Yeah, he's at work right now. He's at the station.
He's driving around the jet skis. That's the big joke at Sand Key.
Right?
Jet skis, yeah.
He just had some. I killed down there a couple a group of kids. I think they were foreign exchange students or something. They were out racing around in stupid rentals over there from the Marriott. And one kid stopped and the other one didn't. He ran right up the back of the ski and hit the kid. And they towed him over to the Coast Guard dock. And when they walked out, they shot his head.
So that's a choice location he's got.
He wants to. He was time here. He's trying to get the chief, and then he said, "I want to go to Bahrain for a year," and then he wants to come back here because he goes, "I can do a year in Bahrain. I know I'll get my pick back here."
My dad, my mom and blue and my dad, they're in my jacket. He was a master chief in the Coast Guard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, buddy. Very sorry. Love you, man. Love you very much.
The party at my house after my wedding.
Oh.
That was my dad's wedding.
Yeah.
He asked if you were coming.
Where's Gordon?
I think he's been saving up for retirement.
Oh, well, I put $1 in my pocket. I know he gave me one at one point.
His son's in the Coast Guard now. Yeah? Yeah. T5. He's doing, that's good. In 4 years is good.
Yeah. So he loves it.
He's a great wrestler. So those guys are
Yeah, he absolutely loves it. How you been, bud?
I do. I think he wants a piece of Jimmy's food.
I asked him if he still had the hook shot going.
He can have it. He can have it. Beat me up. I probably deserve it. Yeah. Was this a... Was this a golf course you played at with your dad and he threw the club off the tee box into the lake? Act like it slipped out of his hand and went right in the water. I think it was me, him, and Ray, and somebody else.
You know, he would buy food.
Yeah, I was 6 inches from
we're going to get started up here because I want to grab a seat. All right, thank you. For those of you that I don't know everybody in this room, it's awesome to see all you guys being here. But my name is Burley. I'm Craig's son. And on behalf of our entire family, I just want to thank everybody for being here and being willing to share in this day with the family. It means a lot. So thank you guys very much. I wanted to start off and just kind of share a little biography about my dad. And so I'll start with that. Craig Andrew Burley was born April 13th, 1945 in Bridgeport, Ohio. He was born on Friday the 13th. That makes sense, right? He was born to Eleanor and Kenneth Burley. He has one older brother, Mark Burley. Dad earned the nickname Pickle very early on in his life, which was later shortened to Pick. So they kind of set the record straight. I've heard all kinds of stories on how and why he got that name. He used to eat a ton of pickles when he was little. He loved pickles, and he even drink the pickle juice out of the jar. So his dad called him Pickle, and that name kind of caught on. And for the rest of his life, he was Pick. Even moving down here, he was Pick. But Dad played and excelled in every sport you could think of as a youth. When he was in Bridgeport Little League in Ohio, his team even won the state championship. He graduated from Bridgeport High School in 1963, where he excelled both athletically as well as academically. He was a member of the National Honor Society. He wrestled, he played football and basketball. His best sport was football. I've had multiple people tell me what an incredible football player he was at Bridgeport High School and how great it was either to watch him play or to be his teammate. He was also a guard on the basketball team that was one of the best in Bridgeport High School history as they won the Ohio Valley Athletic Conference Championship his senior year. And then Dad also wrestled as a freshman. He wrestled for the varsity team in 9th grade at 105 pounds. So he then went on to college. He went on to attend Marietta College as a student athlete. He was a 4-year letterman in football, following in his father's footsteps, who also attended that same college. He was a highly decorated athlete at Marietta. He started on both sides of the ball, at running back on offense and as a defensive back on defense. And he also returned punts for Marietta. He was a 2-time all-conference defensive back and led the team in interceptions his junior and senior years. He graduated from Marietta College in 1967. Upon graduation, he was drafted by the Army during the Vietnam conflict. He was a sergeant in the Army. He was stationed in Yuma, Arizona, serving as a military police officer. During his first 2 years of service, he was blessed to have never been called overseas to Vietnam. He served a total of 2 years. During his 2 years in Yuma, he started a flag football and basketball league for all the servicemen in all the arms of the service stationed there. Upon getting out of the Army, he moved back home to Bridgeport in 1969. Immediately upon moving back, and certainly in my opinion, he made the greatest move of his life and married his longtime sweetheart, Charlene Reynolds. And he met her in 5th grade. They had dated on and off since their junior year in high school. They were married in 1969, and 1 year later, I was born. Dad started his working career then. He started off with Xerox and was immediately successful as a salesman for the company. Then in 1975, we welcomed Chris into the family. Chris was born in 1975. And then in 1979, the family decided to pack up and move to Florida. We settled here in Clearwater, and Dad found a job for a brief stint as a cement salesman. Shortly thereafter, Xerox rehired Dad, and he had a very successful several years and won several awards as their top salesman. He then transitioned to a job with Paradigm, where he sold computer modems for a few years before finally meeting Dick Geiger, and together they started a very successful real estate construction company. In his personal life, throughout the childhood of Chris and I, Dad was very involved in all of our various activities. With many of you here, Dad coached a lot of our teams. He coached Bridgeport Little League, he coached Florida Junior Gators, Dunedin Little League, Countryside Junior Cougars, Countryside Little League Softball, and more. And then late in life, Dad began to suffer from dementia. In 2010, Dad began to show signs of cognitive decline. And in 2016, he was officially diagnosed with vascular dementia. Over the past 9 years, the disease slowly progressed, And on April 6th at approximately 4:30 a.m., Dad went on to be with our Lord. His family, he's survived by his wife Charlene, myself and my sister Chris, his daughter-in-law Kaylee, and his son-in-law Raul, and his 3 grandchildren, Cade, Burley, and Braden, and his brother Mark and Mark's family. At this time, I want to invite up my dad's grandchildren, and they'd like to share a little bit with you guys.
Hi everybody, thank you for being here today. I'm Cade, I'm Kev's son. This is my sister Brinley. This is our cousin Braden, who's Chris's son. We're each going to share something. Braden's going to start us off.
So at first, I wasn't sure if I should speak or wanted to speak because there's so many people here, which is great to see, and so many of you knew him for much longer than I did. But I decided that I wanted to say something because throughout the past few weeks, and I'm sure throughout the rest of the night, I just loved hearing about what a great friend he was to many of you. So I hope in that same way you all would enjoy hearing about what a great grandfather he was to us. He was never negative about anything or anyone, and he just loved nature and loved God and just lived life to the fullest every day, and he found beauty and appreciation in everything. I remember he would take me to the bread store and buy bags of old bread and get buckets of corn to throw in the backyard to bait deer, not to hunt them, but just to watch them, just to enjoy them, just sit out in the back and enjoy life. And, with that, he took us all into nature, and, we'd explore, and we'd be sitting at family dinners, and he would ask if we wanted to go in the woods. And of course, my mom would say, no. Grandma would say, absolutely not. And Uncle, Dad, no, there's snakes back there, it's dark. All right, so 15 minutes later, he's got us in the middle of the swamp. He's got machetes, and, we're fending off snakes because he taught us that sometimes you gotta have a little danger in your life. And of course, because of that, everyone sees him as a pranks guy, and he definitely was for us too. I mean, he had these handcuffs, and there's a picture that'll come up. He said were fake, and part of his magic set, and me and Kate handcuffed ourselves together, and then we're like, all right, Yachi, where are the keys? He'd make these sound effects. He'd go, pat himself down. So anyway, that day, Yachi taught us how to use bolt cutters. Other than just teaching us how to get into and get out of trouble, he always had a way of turning his jokes and pranks into life lessons and memories that we're always going to be able to keep with us for the rest of our lives. So yes, this is a sad time for all of us, of course, but he wouldn't want it to all be sad. I find peace knowing that he's with the Lord right now, and he's looking down on us all with a smile because his life story lives on through everyone here. And for me, an example, he's the reason I ever picked up a football in the first place, throwing me routes in the front yard. Now maybe being a wide receiver wasn't in the cards for me, but that's still something that has a lasting impact on my life, I feel like. And he lived his life for God and loved his family and friends with everything he had. And he would always show up for everyone, for anything, no matter how small it may be. And that's why I just strive to be like him. And he wasn't just the best grandfather I could ever ask for. He was also our mentor, an example, inspiration, and someone who I'm so thankful to have had in my life. And I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room who feels that way. Thank you.
I'm Burley. Sorry. I'm the emotional one, so I don't have any jokes like Braden. Braden's much better at that than me, but I did write a little something. Sorry, just bear with me. I've always said to my whole family how blessed I've been my whole life with having grown up with 4 grandparents, all within only a few miles of me. Not only have they been close in proximity, but close in my relationships with them as well. I know plenty of my own friends who don't even have a good relationship with their grandparents, let alone some don't even know them at all. So I feel incredibly blessed by Nana and Bobby and Mama and Yachi especially today. I just feel so lucky to have them. Yachi is the first experience I've had with a loss, and sorry. It's such a weird thing as the grief comes in waves and the memories roll with it. Some memories of him make me laugh and smile, and some make me cry. And there was just nobody like Yachi. He always made me feel like the most special person in the room. I remember every Saturday night as a kid, Cade and I would spend the night at Mama and Yachi's house. Yachi would pretend he was a fancy restaurant server and would ask for my ice cream order with an accent I certainly can't replicate. He would then come back to me with my ice cream order and present it to me with a napkin over his arm, like this. And he would also curtsy. He even bought me this mug. It's pink, and it's got a heart with my name engraved on it, and he would bring my ice cream or soda or any snack, and that cup was for me and for me only. He always called me his little princess, and that cup means a lot to me, and I have it in my own house now. I remember so many wonderful things from those days, sleeping over at their house. At night we would go outside and sing Mr. Moon, which I think you guys made up. Basically went, Mr. Moon, Mr. Moon, Mr. Moon, Mr. Moon, and just over and over, and he would sing that moon. In the morning when we would get picked up by my mom and dad for church, him and Mama would stand at the end of the driveway and wave until we were all the way down the street and around the corner. They would just wave and wave and wave until we couldn't see them anymore. As his dementia got worse over recent years, his thoughtfulness and care certainly never changed. I met my boyfriend 3 years ago, and though Yachi only was around him a handful of times, he never forgot his name or who he was. And that has meant a lot to me. And I've held on to that as he battled dementia through recent years. Yachi always supported me, loved me, and he made me feel special. And just those examples just show how much he cared. And it's just special to know that this was my grandpa, and he wasn't only one in a million to me, but also to many of my own friends growing up, who he would encourage, whether it was at a sports game or at my recital or anything I had going on. He knew my friends, he knew their names, and I even had friends text me, like, I'm so sorry about your grandpa, because they knew him too. Many of you who are here know him as your best friend, as a hardworking colleague, and some of you the closest thing that you had to a brother. He brought smiles to so many people, whether it was by encouraging them, certainly playing a prank on them, being a support system to them, or even just knowing their name. And I couldn't have asked for a better grandfather, and I thank God all the time that I have the privilege of being his one and only granddaughter for the past 24 years, and I just feel so grateful to have held that title. I just wanted to add to, like, all of you here, it means a lot to us. Some of you are here because you knew him directly. Some of you are here just to support my family, Braden's family, and it just means a lot that each of you showed up today. I know just Yachi's just up there, just looking down on today. He doesn't want me to be crying, he wants me to be laughing, but it just means a lot that you guys are here, so thank you so much.
Over the past few weeks, I've heard a lot from a lot of people and seen a lot of people who have reached out to my dad, and I've realized what an incredible amount of titles my grandfather held. He was a coach, a mentor, an encourager, a teacher, a business partner, a friend, and a best friend to many. But when I was born in 1999, I gave my granddad one of his most cherished titles, grandfather. To me, he was Yachi. I know that name probably sounds a little bit different hearing everybody else say it. Thought you might be wondering how it came to be. When I was a baby, every time I saw him, He'd pick me up and throw me in the air, making the sound, yo! So before I could even speak, I started to try and ask for him to do that to me by shouting, Yutch! Eventually it turned into Yutchy, and for nearly 26 years, that's what I got the privilege of calling him. He had a name for me too. He called me Buster, though most of the time it was shortened to Bus. But he wouldn't just say that, he would yell, Buzz! Every single time he saw me, it didn't matter where we were or who was around, he made me feel like the most special person in the world. That wasn't something reserved for just me, that's what he did for everyone. It's who he was. When you were with him, you felt like the most important person in the room. That's a rare gift. It's something I didn't fully appreciate as a kid, but I clearly see it now. He was so full of joy and always found the bright side of every situation. He was so gifted at bringing positivity and happiness. He was the most uplifting person I've ever met. I honestly can't remember him ever saying something negative. When I was going through adversity, he would frame it differently than most people do. He would say, think of how much better you will be because of this, or how blessed are you to have this new opportunity. He always had a way of delivering advice to me in such an organic way, a way that stuck with me. He taught me a few lessons that I consider invaluable. That outlook shaped me. He taught me so many key lessons. Be kind to everyone. Consider what someone else might be going through. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Work hard. Give 100% everything you do. Be tough. Don't quit. Don't let anything get you down, and stay positive. He didn't just say those things, he lived them, and I carry those lessons with me every day. Trying to think of one great memory was difficult. There are so many, but one day that I'll never forget was when I was 8 during football season. He was my dad's assistant coach for our junior Cougars football team. Played a game at 8 a.m. and we won. Afterward he said, let's drive to Gainesville and catch the Gators game. So we did. On the way home, driving through Tampa on 275, he saw the lights on at Raymond James and says, Bus, you want to break the record for granddad and grandson football games in one day? We scalped tickets and watched USF play that night. 3 games in one day, just me and Yutchy. That's who he was, spontaneous, fun, and always making memories. He was there for everything in my life. Every holiday, every birthday. The more I think about it, almost every day. There's even a home video of me walking down the stairs and seeing the presents on Christmas, and the first thing I say is, Bryn, we gotta wait till Yutchy's here. Every football game, basketball game, baseball game, my 5th grade trumpet performance, who Mrs. Fuoco is here today. He was there. It didn't matter. From Kansas City to Orlando to Clearwater, and I'm sure anywhere on the planet, if I had something going on there, he was there every time. It didn't matter how the game went. If we lost, he'd say, Bus, you played your heart out, and that makes me proud. He told me he was proud of me all the time. But today I want to say this. Yutchy, I'm proud to be your grandson. Since you passed, I've realized something. I carry the Burley name forward now. If I can stay true to your example, if I can make just one person's day better every single day, I know you'll be proud of me too. If I can be even half the person that you were, I'll be a man worth remembering.
Somebody has to go after that. So I'm going to lower the, great job you all. I'm going to lower the bar quite a bit here, so everybody feels, I'm just kidding. So I'm Raul, I'm Chris's husband. Let me just get my glasses, I'm not going to kid anybody here. I'm married to Chris, or some of you guys know her as Critter. I think Matt Geiger might have had something to do with that. Next time we need a different nickname. About her eating a lot of Rice Krispies when she was little. Anyway, we knew each other in high school, but we didn't get to become real close until we started dating in college. My first memory of meeting Pick was in high school when the Kelcourse family invited me to go see the fireworks show in Safety Harbor with the Burleys. Mike and I were just inseparable in high school. And Chris and Lisa, his sister, were inseparable in high school. So they invited me to go down there, and we had a great time down at Safety Harbor. One thing I noticed was we were all jumping in the back of Pick's truck. to get a better view of the fireworks, and his truck was painted garnet gold, of course. And the Countryside Cougar colors. Like, who does that, right? Who paints their car or truck the colors of their kid's school and keeps them that way for 8 years? Or was it 9 with Kevin? I'm just kidding. For 8 years, they were done with high school. So they even used it as a homecoming parade with all the cheerleaders. Some of the cheerleaders are here. They all jumped in the back and they rode around the track and field during the game. Once Chris and I started dating in college, it was evident how close she was with her mom and dad, how much they all loved each other. I remember them talking on the phone all the time and hearing so many fond memories of their childhood. They would even come up quite often, even though it was such a long, almost 6-hour trip. Sometimes they'd drive up together, and other times they'd come up by themselves to spend quality time with Chris. I remember one specific time where Pig came up with my buddy Tom Shoy, who's here. Apparently they had to bring a new kitten up to Chris that was just spayed. Not a big deal, right? Most parents would do that for their own kids. Minor detail, Pig and Tom are both highly allergic to cats. By the time the 6-hour drive was over, their eyes were so red and almost completely swollen shut. I'm not sure how they could even see the other cars on the road. Not even get in an accident. But again, who does that? I think Pick would do that all day long for his daughter, and I'm surprised they didn't go to the walking clinic. Tom's eyes were about to fall out too. Later that weekend, they even crashed the aerobics class that she was teaching. Chris used to teach class every single day up there. A bit late, of course, just so they could make sure everybody saw them walking in. They pulled the yoga mat and started whining and huffing and puffing. I can just picture Pico saying, "Critio, you're killing me over here," like he used to say. Burley, of course, was set up on the aerobic stage in his Georgia Southern gear. Chris didn't even flinch. She just shook her head and kept on teaching. Oh, should have had LASIK. What was that? Anyway, Pick and Shar drove up multiple times to even watch me play football. I use the word play loosely. I don't think the coach appreciated my talents as much as they should have. Anyway, they knew I was riding the bench, and they still drove up there to watch me stretch and warm up. I did have an intimidating warm-up routine, but anyway, Chris and I were just dating, so for them to come up there just to see me play a few games or whatever, sit on the bench, and then for my graduation was very, very nice of them. Anyways, many of you know how giving he was with his time. We already mentioned that a little bit tonight, spending hundreds of hours each year coaching football and Chris in softball, or whether he was just there listening, encouraging us, or just giving good advice at different times in our lives. I know after college he gave me some good mentoring and advice to help me figure out what in the world I wanted to do. My degree in sports management and that whopping 2.5 GPA weighted was a bit of a challenge for him, but I didn't give him much to work with. But anyway, he did the best he could. He was so helpful, he even got me my first job interview. There comes the problem. I didn't know what I was walking into. So the only downside is I walked into being one of the recipients in his pranks. He set me up in an interview with his buddy, Todd Gregorsik's son. And Todd was like the vice president of this startup company in Clearwater. So even though Todd and Pick were friends, I had never met him, so I was already nervous. It was my first job interview out of college. And I was all decked out in my $99 JCPenney suit. So I walk in and sit down, and after a very, very long wait, it seemed like, his secretary comes to get me and gets me to his office. She ushers me back there, and I notice the room's kind of dark. There's a reading lamp on Todd's desk. I didn't think much of it. Huge executive wooden desk. All of a sudden, Todd moves the lamp and shines it in my face and starts asking these weird questions that have nothing to do with the job. I still wasn't sure what was going on, and after like the 17th question about what my favorite type of bird was in 3rd grade, he stands up and thanks me for coming, and I realize he's got a shirt and tie on and no pants on. He had boxers on. I'm like, oh no. I think Pick might have had something to do with this. But anyways, I do remember those many times, as you all have heard tonight, that he helps others. There's a good buddy of mine that was going through a very difficult time at the time. One of his boys had like over 20 surgeries the same year. And my buddy was spread thin, literally, like he was just trying to work and try to take care of his kids. He had 2 other boys too, and he was very, very tight on money. No exaggeration, he probably lived 10 months over at Bayfront, you know, staying over the night over there. So Pick wanted to help him, and but he wanted to make sure that he didn't know about it. We didn't even know about it until many years later. So he came up with a plan. Luckily, he knows a pastor named JD, and he calls up JD and figures out a way to give my buddy some money. And so that was really, really nice. But my buddy didn't even go to their church, so I guess we should have known that. But he was up to it. But we found out about, I don't know, 10 years later. But that was very kind of him. Anyways, for me, he always made me feel very welcomed. As protective as he is about his kids, he just knew that I loved and cared deeply about Chris, and then later on Braden. It was evident how much he loved his kids and grandkids. For Kate, Brindley, and Braden's games and concerts or plays, he would be almost obsessive about being there, even if he wasn't feeling well. We had to tell him, you know, sometimes it's okay if you're sick or something, or you're just tired, especially as the kids get older, they totally understand. But he said, you know, I just learned that lesson from my dad, Mr. Burley. And he said, just never miss your kids' games, never miss your grandkids' game. And that's just how he was. He was, no matter what, he was going to be there. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Raul said his thing was going to be 5 minutes. Was the deal there. What I wanted to share today, and what gives me so much peace today, there's so many people in this room who I know God placed in my dad's life and God's perfect timing, who I'm literally eternally grateful for. God used these people to help lead my dad to salvation. My dad gave his life to Christ. He repented of his sins, and he accepted Jesus as his Lord and Savior late in his life. So I have peace today in knowing that my dad accepted Jesus as his Lord and Savior. And I know that he's in heaven. We're all sinners, and we all fall short of God's glory, but his grace and salvation are a gift that's free to all of us, and Dad accepted that gift, and therefore he rests in peace today. Romans 10:9-10 says, if you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you profess your faith and are saved. So today is a celebration of not only Dad's life, but of his homegoing and his reunion with the Lord and Savior, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Yes. Dad is absent from his body, but he's present with the Lord. Yes. The other verse that comes to mind when I think of my dad is Matthew 22:36-40. And it said, it was when Jesus was asked, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the greatest commandment. When I think of my dad, I think of how he lived that out through his passion for life that he showed every day, his positivity, his joy for living, the way he felt and would share how blessed he was. I remember specifically riding across the causeway with him all the time, and him just saying, Kevin, man, are we blessed or what? We live in the greatest place in the world. Look at the weather. Look at the sunshine. We're healthy. We've got each other, man. What else can we ask for? And he would talk about how lucky he was to have had the father he had, the childhood he had, the job he had, the friends he had, and the family he was blessed with. He was always singing, laughing, smiling, joking. He didn't worry. He never worried about things. He loved saying, never sweat the small stuff. And Kevin, the big picture, it's all small stuff. He exuded a joy and appreciation for each day like no one had ever known. If you want to show your love, your appreciation, your gratitude, and your thankfulness to God, I can't think of any better way to do that than to live your life the way my dad did. In the second part of that verse, Jesus talks about love. He says, love your neighbor as yourself. Paul says in Romans 13:8, for whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. And to me, this defines my dad's life more than anything you could ever possibly say about him. This is the legacy that he has left, how to love others. 1 Peter 4:8 says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins. Well, thank goodness for that, because Dad also needed a lot of covering. But that's my dad's legacy, how to love others, how to live a life for other people. I never heard my dad say a single bad thing about another person. I really didn't. It did come out of mine, But when I would complain about someone else, he would tell me to think about that person and what they must be going through in order for them to say something or behave in the way that they did. He would feel bad for them and show them mercy instead of being upset by their comment or their behavior. And then he just moved forward, living his joyful life. He wanted to make people smile. He wanted to make people happy. He wanted to brighten people's days. He would remember things about people and do nice things for them. He was always willing to help other people. He would buy and deliver gifts to less fortunate families during the holidays, and nothing made him more happy than that. He was the greatest father Chris and I could have ever asked for. He was a tremendous provider. He worked very hard and sacrificed so that we had everything that we ever needed. He was always there for us. He helped coach just about every team we ever played on. And I'm pretty sure he never missed a single game, production, event, anything that Chris and I ever did, not one thing. Our friends became his friends. He became great friends with our friends' families. He made our lives his life. My last year of college, we had an away game in some town in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina, or something like that. And he wouldn't even tell me he was coming. I'd look up in the stands before tip-off, and there he was. And I remember telling my dad, my senior year, I felt bad. I said, Dad, I gotta be honest with you, I'm kind of burnt out, on the hoops. And I feel like sometimes maybe my effort isn't at a level that would warrant you driving 12 hours to a game like this. And he just said, Kevin, I don't care. I just love watching you play. He just loved supporting us. He was my best man at my wedding. He was my best friend until I got married. He loved us so much. He was tough on us, but he was always so encouraging and positive with anything we were interested in. He instilled in us a belief that we could do anything. When I got married to Kaylee, Dad just loved, adored, and couldn't believe how beautiful she was. He told me that was clearly the biggest victory of my life, and he would ask me often how I was able to pull that one off. When Chris married Raul, my dad fell in love with Raul too, and loved and supported him like his own son. He loved Raul so much that I think he also questioned how Raul was able to marry Chris. Then he became a grandfather to Cade. Kate, Burley, and Braden. And that cycle just repeated itself. He never missed anything they did, and he loved and looked forward to every single second he got to support, spend time with, and be around them. To get to see my kids experience his love, kindness, and joy towards them will always be some of my greatest memories of my dad. And then he had this impact on my friends and so many others as well. I heard from so many of you, and I heard things like this. Your dad helped me start my business. Your dad went out of his way to introduce me to someone who springboarded my career. Pitt got me a job. Pitt gave me confidence in my athletic career. Several told me your dad was like a second dad to me. And one of my favorites, and it might sound small, but I love it so much because it's just what he did 100 times a day. My friend said that my dad had this special way. He would holler out his name anytime he walked into our house or the gym. And he would give him this hard hand slap, and he said he made him feel really cool at a time in his life when he probably wasn't. That's who my dad was. He just had this way of making everything better, more fun, a good time, a great memory. But most of all, he had a way of making you feel like you were so special to him, and he sincerely cared about you, and he did. He really did. You really were so special to him. Everyone he befriended was. He just loved everyone and found the best in everyone, and he would just magnify and celebrate that quality. Just the way he greeted you made you feel good and feel so happy. He didn't just say your name, like Kate said earlier. He would get his whole body into it, just holler it out. JD, Tommy Gunn. He would just go. I loved seeing him see people and get so excited. The way he would answer the phone, Kate talked about that when our kids called him, just made them feel so loved. Dad's life was defined by love and loving other people. That's what he would want to be remembered for, what he did for other people, and most importantly, how he made others feel. My dad wasn't some immaculate saint by any means. He sinned. He wasn't perfect. He made some massive mistakes. But we all fall short, and most importantly, we're all called to love God and love others. And I hope my dad's legacy will be an encouragement to all of us in this room, and to all of us whose lives he's touched and made better, to live out God's two greatest commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. At this time, I'm like, JD, would you like to come up? And then after JD shares, I'll open up the mic, and if anybody wants to share a story or a memory or a thought about my dad, you can do that.
Well, to follow Keb is a task, and the grandchildren. And well, I have a kind of a different relationship with Pig than you would have. I was Pig's pastor for many years and fell in love with Pig. It was hard not to fall in love with him. Although, can you imagine having Pig Burley and Bud Gregorczyk in your church at the same time? I've got church stories that I could tell that would take way too long, but I'll tell you two. Bud Gregorczyk was a big guy. I mean, he was a big guy. And his favorite seat at church was to sit on the back row. And while I preached, he would watch the squirrels in a tree outside. And he and Pig, every Sunday, would bring potato chips, a large bag of potato chips, and they would serve the whole back row of the church. Now, I don't know if when church is quiet, a large potato chip bag makes a lot of noise. And there were Sundays that I would have to call them down because they would have fellowship as they passed the bag. A second story happened, and it sounds kind of bad at first, but it's not that bad. It is bad, but it's not as bad as you might think it is. We had an elderly lady in the church that was sitting about halfway up the sanctuary. Of course, Bud and Pig and their friend Sammy Stavali, who made his money in the garbage business in New Jersey. And he was the bookends, Bud and Sammy, and Pig's in the middle. And this lady was walking out of her row to go to the restroom, I'm assuming. She gets right into the aisle, and she very gently falls. None of the ushers come to help her. So Sammy, who is about the same size as Bud, goes waddling down the aisle to help pick her up. Pig stands up, has got a handkerchief in his back pocket, and like a football referee, throws the handkerchief at Sammy and then calls him for clipping. I'm sitting on the platform and I'm thinking, what in the world did I do that God has given this to me? And he is, after church, Pig says, JD, write Sammy a letter suing him for knocking that woman's head. And dumb me, I create a fictitious law firm, make a heading, and write a letter to Sammy suing him for knocking that lady down in church. He gets so scared, he sends the letter by fax to his attorney in New Jersey. He gets a call back with the attorney laughing. We've researched this, Sammy. Somebody's pranking you. And it was all picked. I love that guy so much. I know we've got others that's going to come and tell stories. But I want to tell you, the last time I talked with Vic, he called me and asked me if I'd meet him for lunch, and I met him at the Lucky Deal in, I guess it's Palm Harbor. And we have lunch. This was a number of years ago. Because I had texted or written him and told him I was praying for him, concerned about him. And after we ate lunch, Vic looked me straight in the eye. And he said, JD, I'm good. He said, God has become so real to me. And as Kev had said, he wasn't perfect. But he had a loving heart to God. And he said, this is what I want you to do. Don't worry about me anymore. You go on and you win other people to Christ. Because when my time comes, I'm going to heaven. And I thought, what a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. And what a family. You grandkids, you're just a product of good rearing. I want to tell a couple of other stories. Is it okay? Is it okay? Can I? No, okay, thank you. When Chris and Raul and Kev always made fun of the way I said Raul. Always. Raul's last name is Dan. He's from Puerto Rico. And Pick said, JD, when you do the wedding, I want you to tell everybody how happy the Burley family is that you're here to enjoy this wedding. And then would you say, and the whole damn family is here. A newspaper picked that up, and Jay Leno picked it up, and he had it on one of his evening things that said, preacher says the whole damn family's here. He loved to laugh. And Char, there's nothing Vicki and I love more than being with you and Vic. The things that we all did together. And I want to tell you, Char stayed in the background, but Char was as mischievous as Vic. She really was. I'm from a little town called Mount Airy, North Carolina. Andy Griffin's hometown. We're known as Mayberry. The church needed a little extra money. So Bud and Pick gave me a brown paper bag, written on the outside, Bud and Pick's fundraiser plan. I opened it up. On the inside, there was a stocking, put over your head. I kid you not, this was their plan. There was a water pistol, and there was a letter that told how to get Barney Fife's bullet out of his pocket. She wrote it. We have had wonderful times. I haven't talked to Pick in quite a while, but when we get to heaven, we're going to sit and talk. We're going to reminisce. There's going to be good times. Vicki and me and Pick and Char and sit down. And there'll be nothing there but love. I love him. I know you do. Those of you that know him, he was hilarious. But he was real. I'll close by just saying a portion of scripture from Hebrews 11th chapter. And by it, he being dead, yet speaketh. He's going to keep talking to all of us. Death is real. Heaven is real. Everything we have here, we leave. But one day, if we're in Jesus, we'll all be able to celebrate eternal life for him. God bless you.
All right, JD, thank you so much. Those of you that don't know JD, that guy, God put that guy in my family's life, and he saved our lives. Spiritually saved our lives. He means so much to our family, and man, I'm so happy that you're here, and so thankful for you sharing. So I just wanted to open, if anybody's got a pickup story they wanted to share, I'll share a couple quick ones. My favorite, everybody knows my dad is Pick, and I was talking to a guy, and he said, I was with your dad last night, you got an argument with some guy. I said, you got an argument? He said, yeah, and the guy called him a prick. I called him a prick? I said, what my dad said? He said, he told the guy the R is silent. And I'll tell another quick one, and then we'll get to see this guy. So my dad, always setting up pranks, always pulling practical jokes, and some of the people in the room, Matt's, dad, like he was in his prime. But they at one point, Matt's dad and my dad, they bought a limo for their, really, to pull practical jokes. They said they bought it for the business, but they did it to pull practical jokes. So my dad had an army buddy coming down to visit him, and so of course he thinks I gotta pull this joke off. So they're gonna go to, I think it was Burns or some restaurant that's really dimly lit, you can barely see or anything. And he had, for those of you who know, the slap man. This guy, huge guy, big guy, 6'6", 400 plus pounds. So he has him already at Burns with his wife sitting in the table, seated right next to where my dad, my mom, and the guy's name was Major, and his wife were gonna sit. So he was there first. They walk into the restaurant, and this guy has like a doctor's light on his forehead, like a lamp with the thing around his head. So they walk in, they look at him, and like, that's kind of weird. You know, he's reading the menu, and they're like, that's kind of weird. They sit down. So they're sitting down trying to eat. They start talking, and all of a sudden the light would go, you know, right past everybody at the table. They're like, that's kind of weird. So they have it a couple more times. Then it locks in on my dad's buddy, his wife. It locks in on her for like 3 or 4 seconds. Like, what? That's not right. And he's staring at my wife. So then, you know, it goes away. So that happens like 3 or 4 times. And then finally, the light goes woof, woof, locks right in on her cleavage. So the guy flips the table, jumps up, and, you know, but he was always pulling jokes. So I wanted to open up. I know we have a couple of people that have asked to speak. Does anybody want to open up? I can bring the microphone to you. Anybody got? Kevin's got.
This is actually going to be a surprising story. I could tell 100 joke stories, but so my sophomore year, and to go along with what the kid said, I don't think he missed one of my games either, from 7th grade basketball on either. And so my dad, those of you who don't know, my parents were a lot older, and my dad had a heart attack, and so he's in the hospital. And so I'm at football practice, but it was like near the end of football season, so basketball had kind of like started. So I get out of practice, and Pick's there with Kev and a couple of other people, and he's like, hey man, Kev, aren't you going home with the Julius tonight or something like that? Kev's kind of looking at him, and he's like, Kev, come on man, I'm gonna take you home. And I was like, you know, no, Coach Simpkins usually takes me home. He's like, no, I got you, come on. He's like, you know, so I'm like, okay. So next thing I know, Pick's taking me home, and so we're driving. He's like, hey, Kev, hey man, I'm hungry. You hungry, right? You're hungry. I'm like, sure, Pick, yeah, I'm hungry, you know. He's like, oh, let's go to McDonald's. You like McDonald's, right? I'm like, yeah, sure. So he takes me to McDonald's, and he's like, you want a burger, like a couple burgers? Come on. Burgers? I'm like, yeah, sure. He bought me like 7, 8 burgers. And he's like, what is your mom like? And I'm like, she loves filet of fish. He buys like 2, 3 filet of fishes. Takes me home, drops me off, you know, he's talking to me about stuff, you know, he's like, hey man, your dad's gonna be okay. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And he's like, hey man, you know, if you ever need anything, just let me know. I didn't get it. Like, I didn't understand what he did for me that day. But like, I look back now and I really do. Dude was awesome, man.
Anything else you want to share? Story out. Maybe you should go last.
I don't need a mic. I look around. Vic gave so much, and I know it's a long afternoon, but he gave us time. And I'm not ashamed to say, I'm going to take your time, because I'm going to tell you some great stories. And they're real. Vic, I look around, I knew him longer than anybody in this room. He was my neighbor. Him and his brother Mark lived up the street. My sister Claudia and I down the street. My mom and dad were good friends of the Burleys. His dad was a legend. He was a high school football coach, athletic director, later postmaster general. But him and Mr. Negro, if you heard of baseball, Joe and Phil Negro, personal friends of ours, they formed a little league back in the 50s. Kevin mentioned before, they won the state championship, runner-up and all that. So when I made the varsity football team as a freshman, Vic was a junior, we became close friends. And I had a speech impediment. That's bad enough. Having a mouthpiece, and the coach said, you're going to be the captain of the defense, call the plays. And they're around a huddle, 66 right. You know, he called, Vic said, shut up, 66 right. He didn't stutter. You know? So the bonding was there. So a year later or two, he's in college. His dad took me to my first college game, playing down in Marietta. And later on, he said, "What are you going to do this summer for a job?" I said, "Oh no, what are you going to do?" You know. He says, "Let's go to my buddy in New Jersey and work at the beach, in Wildwood, New Jersey." Over there in Jersey. I said, "Jersey? I don't think my parents let me go." I'm going to tell you what, made sure I went. I'm with Pick, everything's all great, everything else. So we head to New Jersey, and the World's Fair was going on in 1964. Pick said, "Let's get a job at the fair." See the fair and the sights and everything else. Okay. So our job was to run these tractors with trailers on them, where people could sit on them, and then they park the car in Shea Stadium, and then they go to the World's Fair. Well, I couldn't even get on the tractor, you know. And anyway, later on, he says, "I need you to have an ID. You're 17 years old. How are we going?" I said, "I look older than you do, Pick." And so he says, "I got one for you. Gerald D. Switzenberger from Milwaukee." I said, "I can't spell Milwaukee, let alone Switzenberger. I'm going to be Mr. Jerry, you know, make it simple." So we ended up spending time there, and the bond was great. But the best thing I remember, he had a kind heart. Even, if you imagine when leaving football practice and walk the streets that were home, and I would pronounce Yugoslavia. "Good job, Gordy, you got it, Gordo. Czechoslovakia, good job." How I loved that. Recite the poem. Great job. I mean, he was my coach. I mean, he took time out to make, even though it's in our countries now, but he made me feel so special. So he also shared that special with my dad. And when he got older, and we come down and see the Burleys and spend some time here and fighting leukemia. And my dad never seen a professional football game. He said, "I'm taking a Super Bowl." Okay, it's in Miami. I think the 49ers were playing the Cincinnati Bengals back in the late 80s. So Pick goes and let's go to the pawn shop and get some jewelry. You know, $50 worth of fake jewelry, you know, one that turns green by midnight. And Pick and I used to sell suits out of the trunk of our car. And we'd go to Cleveland and get these suits. They weren't fresh, but they were nice. And he said, "I got the yellow sport coat." I said, "I got an orange one." He said, "We're dressed up, you know." And he got an ABC sticker for the band, and we've got a band of his brother Mark come down, and cousin Mike, pretty boy Mike. So we're like somebody, and my dad's in his 80s, right? And he hung in there with us. So we dress him up. We go to the Doral Country Club in Miami, and security checks the car. "You're not on it." ABC Sports, right? "Oh, go right ahead." Right up the bed, front door. Next thing you know, being from a sports town, John Havlicek, the famous NBA basketball player, dating my sister. So him and his wife Beth was there. And he said, "Hey, Mr. Longshore, how you doing?" "Good, John." And Joe DiMaggio, you know, ball player. "Hey, who's this?" "Pick's one out, president of ABC." Nobody knows who the president of ABC is. Next thing you know, they put a lapel pin on him, like that walking around. I'm an 80-year-old guy. Pick does things incredible. We'll have a good time. Drinks right, free. Food's great, free. We go back to the hotel. Come back, we go back to Ralph Country Club. The party's still going on. "Oh, Mr. Longshore, please. Let's take it to the game." Oh, we get on the bus. We get to the place. No tickets. We don't have a chance to get a ticket. So the next thing you know, we sold this guys bought a ticket for my dad. So I said, "Pick, what are we going to do? We want a ticket." He said, "We'll pretend we're chauffeurs of limousines. We got this big tent, there's all this food, TVs, staging right over here. Pick condom them and say, 'Hey, these are the drivers. You got to feed these guys.'" I mean, you wake up wondering what you're going to end up at. But the best blessing was Char. She put up with all that. I knew Char when she was a cheerleader, rooting for Pitt when he played sports. She was a good sport, man. And put up with it, you know. The kids, the torture they went through. They love you. I mean, Critter, senior year, you better run track. So we're in the countryside. Pick says, she don't even run, she don't even jog. I said, she's kind of tall, she's not a sprinter. Well, I jumped, and he said, get down there and yell at her. I get down there. Hey, Critter, I jump over the fence, and I'm running with her. She said, what are you doing there? I said, your dad sent me here. Coach says, get him on the track. So, Kev, we go to the game, right? One game in South Carolina. Of course, we got that package, and driving 12 hours, and sitting up in the stands and everything else. Nobody paying attention. We're yelling, bad call and everything. They escorted us out, threw it out, and everything else. So we wait on Kev back at the dorm place. One of the kids said, you need $35. I said, what do you need $35? Oh, take a beer. And they said, and Pick said, what are you doing? I said, help out with the game, you know. They need some beer. But it's just a joy and pleasure, how much he was proud of you being a coach. And one regret he does have, of all of his occupation and very successful, he always wanted to be a coach. And he was a coach to everybody. But he's proud of you being a teacher and your sister. And just, I'm just saying, I came excuse my voice, I came 1,000 miles today because I love him. And I can't wait to go thousands of miles when we all can take that journey to heaven to see him someday. Thank you.
We're going to do more here. Are we good?
So back in the day, my dad is a chiropractor. He had an office in downtown Safety Harbor, just opened it up, trying to build his business up there. Pig came up to my dad with one of his jogging things and said, hey, I got a buddy who's got a bad back, he just flew in, can you help him out? Sure, he goes, but I got an idea. So my dad brings his, Pig's buddy in, and he's like, all right, they took x-rays, the whole thing. Pig pulls my dad back out of the office, he goes, let me go in. So Pig comes in, got a mask, got the whole thing. Pig's always got a different foreign accent from every country. Tells this gentleman that he has to put on a gown and completely strip naked. So the guy goes ahead and puts on the gown and says, the doctor will be right back. Comes back in, and it's Pico again. He's like, okay, I see the problem. He goes, okay, what are you gonna do? And he goes, hold on 1 second. Start the chainsaw, the guy took off in downtown Safety Harbor, running with just a gown on and nothing else. So, good old Pick stories.
Hey everybody, I got two real quick ones. The first one is 1986. I'm getting ready to go out for the first game of the season. Right as we're about to hit the floor, Pick grabs me and he goes, stop. He goes, first time down court, shoot it from half court. I said, why would I do that today? He goes, because I just bet Dickie $100 he would. So, 100% true story. The second one, I've never told this story, but it changed my life. So, fast forward to 1996. I'm between crappy jobs. I don't know what's gonna happen with my life or any of that. And I'm about to get married, gotta find something to do, blah, blah, blah. I've been going to interview after interview. My confidence is shot, right? So I've got one interview kind of lined up. I kind of got it in. I'm hoping it goes well. But I'm really down, and I'm at the stoplight, and my head is down, and you get that feeling that somebody's looking at you. So I look to my left, and in the pickup truck is Pig, and he's got this giant smile on his face. And I look, and he rolls his window down, I roll my window down, and he goes, like he says people's names. He's like, what's up, Star? Just like that, like banging me. And I go, man, Pickle, I said, I need to get a job. I've had some terrible interviews. I said, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm worried about this one, you know. I really hope that I get lucky. And he goes, man, he goes, dude, he goes, you go in there. He goes, you be yourself. You tell them you'll do anything it takes to make this work. And they'll be lucky that they got you. And boom, the light changes and we take off. And I think to myself, if Pick thinks I can do it, I can do it. And I got that job, and I worked there for 25 years, and it supported my family very well for a long time. And I owe it to him, because I was disheveled. I would have failed if I hadn't run into Pick that day. God put Pick in my life at that stoplight, at that minute. I totally believe it, and I'm glad I got to tell that story. Thanks, Gail.
Yeah, Pick meant a lot to me when I first moved here. I was 12 years old, and I had played basketball in Massachusetts, and when we got here, Pick was my first coach. And he was so confident in how he spoke to people, and it really helped me my whole career. He was that kind of person. And so, you know, we had a great relationship to the point where he was the first person that ever introduced me into lifting weights and all this stuff. Like, he was just that guy. He was always wanting me to better my career. He believed in me so much, he gave me more belief than I even knew was possible. So he was just that guy. So he somehow, our parents were very close to the whole family, and him and my dad were just the biggest pranksters ever. So Pick, fast forward to me in high school. My dad and Pick are business partners. Of course, they had all this stuff going on, like pranks all the time. So I'm being recruited my senior year of high school. I'm being recruited by a bunch of different colleges all around the country. So Florida State is coming into town to meet my family. Coach Kennedy, Pat Kennedy was the head coach, and an assistant coach are coming over to my house. And Pick comes up with this idea. Him and my dad come up with this plan to prank Coach Kennedy. So I'm like, all right, I'll go along with anything, whatever they're doing. So we're on the back porch. It's my mom and dad, and this Coach Kennedy and one of the assistants, and myself on one of the porch, and they're school, telling them all about the school, and I got to come up and make it one of my recruiting trips and the whole lot. So all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door, and Pick comes in, and my dad's like, what's going on, whatever. They introduce Coach Kennedy to Pick, and Pick's standing there, and he's got like a scrapbook. And, Coach Kennedy's, whatever, he's just gonna be nice, and Pick sits down, and he sits down beside Coach Kennedy, pulls up this chair, and he's like, my son plays too. He literally takes the scrapbook and reads it out. And so my dad, of course, he's the best actor in the world. My dad's over there, like, making faces. And I'm like, just kind of going along with this whole thing. Well, Coach Kennedy's being the nicest guy ever. He's like, oh, wow, yeah. He's like, look. He's almost getting the rim right here. And he just keeps flipping through this book. And finally, my dad goes, hey, he's here to my son Whitey's here, Coach. I mean, I don't like to, make it a big deal. And Pick stands up and goes, oh yeah, that guy. And literally, now Kenny kind of stands back, Pick stands up, and he's like, yeah, I'm saying it like that. They start pushing each other. So my dad is pushing, and finally Pick kind of hits my dad in the side of the face, and my dad scoops Pick up and throws him in the pool. I swear, Coach Gaines is Coach Gaines. I swear that's all happening. And now Pick the screen enclosure outside. He goes, I'll be right back. And so me, my mom and dad, we run to the house. And the sister goes, what are you talking about? My dad goes, I think he's got a gun. And of course, 2 minutes later, we're all in the kitchen. Everybody's standing around freaking out. Pink comes in the front door and him and my dad arm in arm laughing. That's how Pink.
Matt gets drafted by Miami Heat. So his dad and Pick and I go to the game. Now he's not getting played much because he's a rookie, right? We're right behind the bench. Rowley was the coach, and Pick that mask, some Gaddafi from Iran or something. He looks like me. We're yelling, put Gavin in! Put Gavin in! We didn't come here to watch these rookies. He's the best guy here. He's screaming. He looks at me. Tell him I'm going to put you in first, fourth, later on. Who are those two jerks? That's my dad's best friend.
Well, it's I think it's 7 o'clock, so just want to thank everybody again for coming, and just really appreciate. There's nothing my dad would love more than this. You know, I mean, he'd love to see all you guys happy. I've heard so many stories from my dad about so many people in this room and how much he loved you and cared for you, and man, I know he's smiling up there right now. So I just want to thank everybody for coming. If anybody's interested, Matt, if you don't know, he owns a Courtside Grill across the street, and he's been kind enough to section off an area in the restaurant there. If people want to go over there and hang out and share some more stories, everybody's welcome to go. But I just want to thank everybody for coming, and what a great night and what a great event. So thank you guys. I love you guys.